It's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand.
I can both oppress and suppress a minority group, but also feel bad about it. We're gonna have to go with this Hitler guy, and we're on board. Let's just allow the ascension. And so obviously that was a completely different period of time. It was a completely different person, completely different country, completely different context. And so no, it's not a one-to-one thing that is happening right here. But it does make you feel kind of ashamed when you see just like how spineless and useless the libs can truly be, especially the Democrats. And you're just like, so what you gonna do? What you gonna do now that you've seen Donald Trump just basically trying to dismantle every aspect of the U.S. government and try and acquire and consolidate more and more power and do all this kind of fascistic shit? Like, obviously you're gonna resist it, right? You're gonna get up there, you're gonna protest, you're gonna scream and shout and do everything in your power. You're not just gonna sit there wearing, say, like a pink garb, holding up a sign saying this is not normal, or Elon lies, or we will resist, because that's not going to do anything, right? You understand that. You're holding up virtually nothing in the face of fascism. And then, to my surprise, during Trump's State of the Union, when he was speaking to the people and just spreading lie after lie and bullshit after bullshit, I mean, Al Green did stand up and start protesting and not standing for this and being like, fuck you. I'm not gonna take this. I am going to protest. I am going to stand. I am going to make myself heard. I am not going to do what James Carville is recommending Democrats do, which is just lie down and play dead. Well, if we basically allow them to continue to operate and do shitty stuff, we sit back and we let them look terrible. So, well, the problem, James, and any other Democrat who's thinking that, is that if you let them dismantle, destroy, and completely gut out every aspect of the U.S. government that they don't agree with or don't want to operate or have function to the benefit of the extremely wealthy, by the way, that's the reason you get rid of SNAP programs. That's the reason you get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. That's the reason why you get rid of international aid agency programs that are funded by USAID, and you pause them. You do all that because, again, you're trying to, accumulate and concentrate wealth for the most powerful Americans who already have it all. Most of them were already at Trump's inauguration, right? So it's not good, and playing dead won't get you past this. And honestly, it's not going to be a situation where, like, if the country just devolves into complete chaos, you can't sit there and be like, well, we didn't do it, so you're going to want to vote for us. Hopefully the whole voting thing is still a thing, where we're not just descending into complete chaos and violence now. So, but the House just voted 224 to 198 to censure Representative Al Green for interrupting Trump's speech, with 10 Democrats voting for his censure. These are the names of the people who really are the front line of the resistance. The ones who felt that, who the real person at fault here is? The person trying to stand up to Donald Trump. Yep. We need decorum. All right. I think Tom Swazi, Tom made a statement to the effect of, an eye for an eye will simply make the whole world blind. Yes, I am a modern day Gandhi, and that's why I say such things. That doesn't work if the other side are jabbing your eyes with forks. You don't get to sit there and be like, we're taking the high road. We are. Well, yeah, but again, this is not you've done a thing and they've done a thing, and now the violence and cycle of it will go on forever, right? It's more they're blinding all of you. They are taking your eyes. You can't just sit there and be like, well, if we just make the world will realize how bad they truly are. Here, let me pull up the quote. Here it is. I feel sad for our country. I've never felt it so divided. There is a meanness that permeated the chamber tonight. The punch, counterpunch, will never work. If we continue with this eye for an eye mentality, we will all end up blind. Our country needs some healing. Well, again, that doesn't work when the other side is trying to destroy you. You don't get to sit there and be like, well, what if there was just an eye for an eye? Don't worry. Gavin Newsom has a plan. And that brings us to his brand new podcast called This is Gavin Newsom. And you'll never guess who his first guest was.
I think you talked about it the other day. A lot of folks were talking about that Carville article where he talked about
roll over and play dead.
Roll over. In essence, he said that. I think it was a strategic retreat, right? That we need to come back. Trump's starting to implode. His numbers are getting soft. This was even before the tariff issues, et cetera. And then come back and strike when hot. And I immediately, no BS, thought about you, who's just 24/7 flooding the zone, owning this space, every day getting a convert, every day picking up 1, 2, 10,000 folks, continuing the momentum, coming out of this damn election. And then I'm thinking about, we're going to stand back and watch you run circles around us for 6 months, the next 2 or 3 years, waiting for the moment to finally strike. Struck me as not necessarily the best advice, and it's not a knock on Carville, who I have deep respect for. What's your thoughts?
That's okay. So I don't have to. He's read about one thing in the last 40 years. It's economy stupid, and boy, he spent down that one line pretty amazingly.
So this is such a train wreck. Gavin Newsom. Republicans are flooding the zone with content, policy, and messaging every single day. We can't just sit back and play dead. It's time to flip the script. You brought him on your show. This isn't Charlie Kirk platforming Gavin Newsom and now appealing to a new audience, flooding the zone with your ideas to try and get people to realize that, hey, by the way, the price of egg go up because of Donald Trump's policies, that we need to actually have a little bit more sanity or all of you are going to die. That's not what this is. This is you platforming Charlie Kirk, bringing him on your show, and then telling him to his face, wow, you really know what you're talking about and what you're doing. Your strategy is working. I'm going to validate you, Charlie Kirk, the white fucking supremacist. This is the guy who, as of a couple months ago, was saying he will not fly in a plane if the pilot is black because he fears for his life, because he's a racist, because he's a white supremacist. He's the dude who's been saying repeatedly that he wants to eradicate transgenderism from society. He is a bad person. His belief should not be validated. And by the way, Turning Point USA, it's not an organic, like, grassroots knock on doors, get people involved. It is a 100% corporate-funded entity that seeks to, again, push far-right agendas and get people indoctrinated into Republican fucking activities.
Yeah, I hope you guys
but it's heavily funded.
Yeah, you kind of like the
more
advice.
For us.
You like
I mean,
the advice.
there's no opposition. There's no activist spark. You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones that
I don't
are
know,
most
this
cringy?
like harmonious thing of like 22.
It also justifies that entire thing, right? Like, so now people who are watching Gavin Newsom or listening to whatever this fucking podcast nightmare is, but in general, just giving Fox News the ability to run with the story, you've now validated so much far-right bigotry, including, I'm going to have to get to the crux of this, Gavin Newsom agrees with him on a lot of trans issues and LGBTQ plus issues. That's basically what Gavin Newsom wanted to do. This, again, exactly what Jank has been frothing at the mouth for. The whole, like, oh, we got to find out where we agree, meet him halfway into the middle, that kind of shit. Well, now you're seeing that happen by, again, a much higher end figure. Gavin Newsom, no one believes pornography should be taught in schools, obviously, but that's not why 4,000 books have been banned. The Republican Party is on a banning binge. A banning binge, I should say.
240 books or titles, libraries and schools are banned in 2023. Is that not, as a conservative?
Well, it depends. I mean, like, I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair.
so that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
Oh, no.
Bill O'Reilly's
that
book
was the
banned.
Moms for Liberty contention. Time out.
Yeah.
Like, I agree on Bill O'Reilly. The Moms for Liberty movement that you made a big.
You see what you're doing here? You see how you're normalizing all of these previously just kind of like inner right-wing echo chamber points that they use to try and inject themselves in the conversation and justify their far-right extremism? That's what they do. For Charlie Kirk to sit there and be like, look, would you be okay with showing pornography to a kid? Outside of a pedophile, who would say yes to that? So, ooh, that's a very front-loaded way of presenting, I want to ban books. Okay. So the books that you want to ban specifically in schools are all pornographic? while they're books that Charlie Kirk thinks are pornographic. They could be educational. They could be related to LGBTQ plus issues. They could be about health, sexuality, and human safety, by the way. They could be related to any of those things. It doesn't matter to him they're pornographic. Because again, he is a Christian nationalist, white supremacist extremist. So for him, lots of stuff is pornographic. Like, holy shit, the Wendy's menu might be pornographic to this man. I don't know. But it's a great entry point, and you just validated it. To sit there and have him be like, well, I mean, come on, at the end of the day, would you be okay with showing pornography to kids? No, I don't think anyone agrees with that. There you go. So you agree with the book ban. And so we're basically on the exact same page, all right? My ideas are not extreme. I know they're always said to be far-right extremism, that kind of stuff, but you agree. I think we're on the exact same page as this. And here's what happens, by the way. This idea of like, hey, by the way, the right, we need to meet them halfway as Democrats. We need to go center-right. We need to be more extreme than them on law and order, more extreme than them on immigration. And honestly, by doing that, we can appeal to all of the people who might be disaffected by the Republican Party, and then they're going to turn over to the Democrats. And then the left will tell you that's absurd. That doesn't work. It doesn't work historically. And honestly, all this does is open the door to pushing the entire Overton window further to the right. Because on the other end, the right don't do that. They don't sit there going, wow, we just lost a bunch of elections. Maybe we should meet them halfway and start moving a little bit more to the center. Maybe we should be a little bit less extreme on some of these issues. Instead, they are going further to the right. They're going into full-barreled fascism. Let's target vulnerable minorities. Let's go after LGBTQ plus people just for existing. Let's deport or just put into camps immigrants. Let's deport or put into camps and send off to Guantanamo Bay. Let's make sure that we try to erase trans existence. That's where they're going. So if you're like, okay, well, we now have to meet them once again halfway, that halfway has shifted so much further to the right. And now to meet them halfway on that and validate a lot of the fucked up stuff they do in the midterms, you now have to be like, okay, well, I don't agree with you that I think we should eliminate trans people from existing. I think that's a little extreme. But there are some areas where we can work together, right? Maybe when it comes to sports. Maybe when it comes to prisons. How about that? That's something. Maybe gender affirming care for kids. Maybe we're a little too quick to believe the scientists and the entire medical community on that one, and we can meet you halfway there. And on the other side, they're not looking back to meet you halfway. They're barreling even further to the right. Maybe we can eliminate gay marriage again. And it's like, okay, all right, we got to meet you halfway. We don't want to completely reverse course on that and eliminate gay marriage. That one seems a bit extreme. But maybe certain kinds of unions, maybe within certain terms and conditions, we can see that perhaps, yeah, we could limit the amount of right. We're talking about civil rights, though. That's the problem with this. When you start to play fast and loose with this, when you start to do this entire like, oh, come on, we got to negotiate on civil rights. That's the reason why LGBTQ plus activists and allies and people who are fighting for civil rights, doesn't matter if it happens to be related to queer folk or happen to be related to indigenous folk or part of black liberation, any liberation movement. This isn't a game of like, well, okay, we agree to your terms and conditions. It's like, no, freedom above all. We're not free until we're all free. We're not here to do half measures. We're here to have the same exact rights as every other human being. That's the point. Not to meet a fascist or a white supremacist at the midway point, at the midway line. That's not what this is about. Profoundly fucked up to do it. And this is the end result of this shit.
Thing of was just no porn to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
We agree. So those books should be banned.
Well, okay.
So what we should do right now is every California school that has porn in their library should be kicked out.
Does that include
a book.
And then you hear him, he's like, okay.
Bible?
Well, I wouldn't say the Song of Solomon is porn.
No, but I mean, some have made that point. Is that a fair point, or is it offensive?
I don't think that's fair
and as
at
a
all.
man of faith, and I deeply admire that about you.
Thank you.
Sincerely.
Yes, but no, I mean,
Yeah.
again,
You can't even get a pointed edgewise. That is a useful way of bringing this up to people, especially Christian fundamentalists. Do you agree? But instead of being like, well, I'm just going to say the Song of Solomon, which some people might not even know, have a quote ready, Gavin. Have a couple quotes ready. Start talking about the pillars of salt. Start talking about people trading their own daughters for sexual favors. Start talking about how fucking hyper-pornographic parts of the Bible are. And then maybe you can have some kind of a discussion about that. Not like, and by the way, I love your faith. By the way, that's such a beautiful thing that you have faith. That's kind of unique to you, or is that most conservatives? Do they also have faith in the Lord? Oh, I think that is precious. That makes me feel warm too. This is cute. Last year, he signed a law banning schools from notifying parents about their children's gender identity. The governor has also slammed red states for their policies on transgenderism. Trans kids and their families should be celebrated, not targeted by the state. They are heroes, he said in 2002 in response to a Texas directive to report parents whose children transition. California's door is always open to you. This law helps keep children safe while protecting the critical role of parents, a spokesperson for Newsom said at the time. In 2020, he signed into a law requiring incarcerated trans and non-binary prisoners to be housed based on their gender identity. 2 decades ago, when serving as the mayor of San Francisco, Newsom directed the city to dole out marriage licenses to same-sex couples in defiance of the state law. Eventually, the California Supreme Court shut him down. Kirk, 31, had pressed Newsom about whether or not he would be willing to declare there shouldn't be men in women's sports, citing A.B. Hernandez, a trans high schooler who was dominating women's long and triple jump competitions. There's humility and grace, Newsom added, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression, and the way people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think you know is inherent in you but not always expressed on the issue? In the past, Newsom has decried critics of trans athletes and girls' sports for not showing more sensitivity around the issue and underscored that there's only a small number of trans athletes in women's sports. I revere sports, so the issue of fairness is completely legit, Newsom continued. And I saw it the last couple of years. Boy, did I see how you guys were able to weaponize that issue at another level. And right there, we're getting to the crux of it. This is deliberate. Gavin Newsom, who will, I guess, or not, but maybe, run for the 2008 presidential ticket, is representative of a part of the Democratic Party that believes that there should be terms and conditions when it comes to civil rights movements, and also believes that the right has effectively been able to weaponize these issues, and it's just going to be a losing position for the Democrats to take. And so he is choosing to do this. He doesn't have to go into a camera or invite Charlie Kirk onto his podcast, knowing full well that this is something that Charlie Kirk is going to want to talk about, and give him a fucking inch. This does not happen on the right, let alone the extreme right. Again, Charlie Kirk is a white supremacist. You can just fully look up all the horrifying things that man has said. But you're not going to find Charlie Kirk inviting on the moderate centrist Democrat onto his show to be like, I just want to find out where we agree. And I understand that my side has gone a little bit extreme, okay? The whole we should eliminate trans people from existence. We went a little far with that. So maybe there is something that we can do, a compromise, if you will. Where do you think that we have a point of agreement? Well, do you think kids should have access to healthcare? I do. I totally think kids should have access to healthcare. Do you think there should be exceptions, like based on their skin color? Like if a kid is black, should he not be able to see a doctor? No, that sounds pretty extreme. I don't think I'd say that. I'd have to be a white supremacist to agree with that premise. Okay, so maybe the idea of taking away healthcare for children just because they're trans could be seen again as a form of bigotry that only, targets a minority group. Okay, all right, I understand. You know what? Maybe we can work together. We're going to meet each other. Could you, this whole thing, you can't even envision it in your head for a second. You'd be sitting there being like, so what you're saying is you want to cut off kids' penises. What I'm hearing is that you want to mutilate children. Oh, you don't want to mutilate them? Oh, you just want to molest them. Because what I'm hearing is that you want pornography in schools and that you want to molest those kids. Disgusting. I think you should be arrested on the spot, and I hope you get beat up on the way to home. All right, well, thank you very much for joining the Charlie Kirk podcast. It was great to have you on. That's how it would fucking go down. That's the whole thing. But no. Let's do the opposite. Let's have Gavin Newsom bring on Charlie Kirk, lavish him with praise, be like, Turning Point USA is a fucking industry. What a powerhouse. You got what, 10,000 fucking new followers every day or some shit like that. Man, really seems like you're a well-funded, well-oiled machine. Ironically, probably funded by the oil industry and other things like the Koch brothers and stuff like that. Either way, yeah, you really do pull in them numbers. So Charlie, what can I learn from you? Yeah, you can learn to do the emasculation ritual, Gavin, because that's what you're doing right now. I want you to get on your knees and beg. And then I want you to open up your phone and then post a picture where I'm going to draw a green line and I'm going to cock shame you. Yeah, because you're not a man. You're a woman and you're gay. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, Charlie, you sure are funny. I'm having a great time conversing with you, white supremacist Charlie Kirk. Anyways, like what was the benefit of this? Again, unless you are okay with this, which he is, clearly. I want people to understand that because there is an element of all of these neoliberal parties. This includes the Liberal Party of Canada. This includes the Democrats in the United States, where they want that. There are things that are difficult for some people to try and wrap their heads around if it is not something that they've either learned about, or if they have learned about it, they might just at their core of cores fundamentally disagree. And it's tough sometimes. I get that. You got to learn things, right? I love meat. I think it's delicious. Who doesn't love a well-cooked steak or some pork chops or some shit like that? But it's true that it is actually the factory farming industry that is massively contributing towards global warming and could be exacerbating problems that are going to eventually destabilize society. I'm sorry, but it is just the reality of the world we live in. If you want to agree with how the world operates, you got to accept that. It fundamentally, at my core, makes me sad to think that we should really be eating less meat, because I would love to have a giant pile of wings right now, deep fried. In fact, I'm addicted. Even thinking about it right now is making me hungry and salivate. But I can understand that it is true that the factory farming industry, the mass production and consumption of meat requires so much more energy, so much more food, so much more fuel, so much more water. So I would love if I could just sit back and live in a world where that wasn't the case. That would be awesome. That would be awesome if I could just suddenly be like, oh, wait, that's not true. Oh, cool. All right. Well, and if I deeply, deeply wanted to, I could lie to people about it. I could sit here and be like, honestly, that is exaggerated. A lot of it is put out of proportion. I can show you one study from Scandinavia that actually calls into question the entirety of the idea that actually there is some kind of problem with mass factory farming. And really, at the end of the day, are we going to vilify people for wanting to eat? You need food to live. Did you know that? You need food to live. So it's probably in your best interest to eat. I mean, am I going to tell you to starve yourselves to death? Honestly, sickos who do that. I don't want starving children. Do you want starving children? I don't want starving children. You should fucking feed kids. Who's on the other side of this? Do you see how easy it is to politicize that, and how easy it is to suddenly be like something that deep down I wish wasn't true, and I want to just have people be a part of my ethos, and I want to promote, ooh, if I just start that going. And I'd be choosing to do that actively. I would be like, you could all sit here, the chat could flood. You could all be like, Lance, but that's just not true. Blah, 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 blah. Lance, this is fundamentally wrong. But I could just keep on going and going until a handful of you would leave because you're like, he's not an honest person. I'm bowing out. And then a handful of new people would come in and be like, how's Meat Boy? Oh shit, it's Meat Boy Lance. He's going to be talking about how much he loves meat and how good meat is for the world. I'm going to be like, yeah, I fucking love meat, baby. You're watching the Meat Boy show. I love this shit. And that's what Gavin Newsom is fucking doing. Gavin Newsom, I guess it's too difficult for him to get to a certain point when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights as an ally who has shown himself to be an ally in the past and has honestly done, as this article is pointing out, work towards furthering civil rights for LGBTQ plus people. But he wants to keep winning elections, and clearly this is an issue that he's like, you know what, I'm going to choose this lane, and this is the lane I'm going to choose, and yeah, I'm going to suddenly start to agree with a white supremacist like Charlie Kirk. The trans issue, gender issue, it has gone too far, and honestly, as a feminist, I got to take the position that I want to protect women, ultimately, so I'm going to be now choosing to kind of flip my script, to push my... He's deliberately doing this, and so are a lot of Democrats, so are a lot of so-called allies, and when it comes to civil rights, this is not a game of fucking inches. There either is or there is not equality. There is not equality light, equality plus, equality with an asterisk, equality highlights. Every single person who seems to want to juggle and play fast and loose with this shit, it's because ultimately they want to add terms and conditions. Okay, fine. You gays are allowed to have some of the same civil rights that non-heterosexual or non-homosexual couples enjoy, but with some terms and conditions, all right? I mean, some people are disgusted by you. They have a right not to serve you if they don't want. I know it seems like weird. It seems kind of like segregationist to say that you don't have to serve gays if you don't want to, but sorry, terms and conditions. We're going to have to put some more terms and conditions on the whole marriage thing. I know, like straight people can get married and they don't have to worry about that. And they never have to think about it when they walk into, say, like, a bakery. Hey, can you bake us a wedding cake? And they don't have to have the person be like, whom is the bake cake for? They don't have to think about that, but... There is the issue of the whole freedom of religion thing, and then that gets into the whole, is it really define someone's God to have to make you the gay cake? And I don't know, what do you gays want on it? Like a giant dick? Does he have to draw a dick? I mean, that's kind of gross, right? Pornographic? Terms and conditions, all right? We gotta... If we could just find the midway, the halfway point here, then maybe we can work together, with the fascists who want to destroy us and kill us all. She didn't even react to it, which was more devastating, Newsom gasped, noting the small swath of public opposed to her position. Then you had the video of Harris as the validator. Brutal. It was a great ad, he acknowledged. Over the recent months, Newsom has taken steps to moderate his image, vetoing a number of progressive bills that came to his desk through the democratically led state legislature. Last month, for instance, he vowed to veto a bill that would have state prisons cooperating with the feds on illegal immigration. During a 2024 cycle, he emerged as a staunch defender of former President Joe Biden, seeking to disabuse speculation that he could challenge him for the Democratic nomination. He's been coy about his 2028 aspirations. Newsom, who was once married to Kimberly Guilfoyle, the ex-fiancée of Donald Trump Jr., admitted that his 13-year-old son listens to Kirk and was excited to hear his father was interviewing him for the podcast. During the interview, Newsom seemingly marveled at the effectiveness of Republicans on the campaign trail, telling Kirk, "You are making a damn dent. What do you do? Seriously, Charlie, give us some advice. We're drowning out here." Kirk argued that Democrats need to get better ideas, like transphobia. Have you thought of that? It's novel. It's neat. So there's a way more cis people than there's trans people. You know, like nearly 98% of the population is cis. And so you can actually attack a vulnerable community who doesn't really have the numbers and power to be able to prevent you from doing that. And then you can kind of edge in and start to exploit a lot of the built-in bigotry, fears, and insecurities that all of us already have, especially men. Men are really super insecure about being called women, about being called gay, stuff like that. So you can really exploit that with the trans issue. And then you can kind of get people versus people. And then you can even exploit different minority groups who are suffering. Imagine if we can get black people to go against trans people, if we can get indigenous people to go against gay people, all of these groups that don't have a lot of material power or capitalist power, what if they're all fighting each other all the time while we fuck everything up? Doesn't that sound awesome? And you don't even have to do a ton of it because we've got all this shit so built inside of us that everyone's gonna run with it. You just put a couple ads out there, you do a couple fear-mongering campaigns, you find one edge case. You don't even need to have like statistics or data or science on your side. You can just find one scary incident where something happened and exploit the fuck out of that and make everyone think that it's happening all the fucking time. You find one case, you find one immigrant who hurt somebody, and then everyone's gonna be like, so all the immigrants are killers or rapists. It's wild. You'll just see the groupthink go like that. You gotta do very little work. You just push them over the edge. You just give them a light little shove, and then all that internalized bigotry and everything, oh, it just goes all into play. It's beautiful. Mwah. Happens so fast. And yeah, a lot of people get hurt. That's true. But like, I don't give a fuck. Fucking what? A whole bunch of minorities gonna get beat up or go to jail or disproportionately be incarcerated? Yeah, no, that's part of the program. Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk is a white supremacist, so the whole thing works out for him. Beautiful. What do you think, Gavin?
I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand.
I can both oppress and suppress a minority group, but also feel bad about it. Unlikely 2028 presidential hopeful to speak out against A.B. Hernandez, a trans high school track star from California, whose triple jump event at the Wims competition drew fierce backlash from the right. Newsom said he had 4 children of his own, including 2 daughters, and he noted that both he and his wife participated in college-level sports, she in soccer and he in baseball. I revere sports, so the issue of fairness is completely legit. Kirk challenged Newsom over the use of the word weaponize, and Newsom replaced it with highlight. Politico last month was the first to report Newsom's new podcast, with the Democratic governor saying he drew inspiration from the likes of HBO provocateur Bill Maher. Cool. There's definitely someone that you should be emulating yourself with as a politician. Do you want to be a politician, or do you want to be on fucking HBO?
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwig, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons. Head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs.